The 19th letter in our alphabet is S. And in our language, S is symbolic to self or savior. And what that means is we strive to make knowledge born, or we share with people what it is that we think would help in their growth and development. And when I say share, I'm talking about finding an appropriate time to share, not just walking around offering unsolicited advice that sometimes people don't want to hear. I'm talking about finding that moment to be able to share something which is of value to people. Even though we share that with people or we make knowledge born, it's on that person to save themselves. They have to do something with it. And no matter how much we want to help them, how much we want to do it for them, how much we want to walk them to that water hole so they got to drink on their own. You can lead a person to knowledge, but you cannot make them think. They have to think for themselves. And that is the only real sustainable way for a person to be able to think for themselves. And that is the antithesis of the type of society that we live in. We don't live in a society which strives to empower people to be critical thinkers so they can make decisions and choices for themselves. Everything in our society is designed to bypass a person's critical thinking skills, whether that is ads that we see, whether that is other type of content that we look at. Even when you look at social media and the scrolling function that we have on our social media apps, the scrolling function itself does not allow you to critically examine anything. It's literally designed to bypass your critical thinking skills. And then when you look at the word count that is a standard that you should use on Instagram posts or Facebook posts or Twitter posts, the truncated word count or the limited word count reconstructs your brain architecture to think in a limited way. We have a whole generation who are being raised to not know how to have a well thought out idea. A whole generation. Because of the way that social media is actually designed, it's designed for immediacy. Some thoughts and the ability to articulate that thought requires more than the word count that you're given on Twitter. Or you've seen it before on Facebook. Somebody put a whole book up there. Sometimes I don't read that. And I'm sure some of y'all do the same thing. Like, oh, hell no, I ain't reading that whole book. Because the app itself is not designed for you to be posting a book caption. But that may be what is required for that well thought out idea. That might be what is required for that. But the way that the apps are set up, it's designed to limit or to truncate a person's thought process. And even introducing text language, which is shorthand for those type of thoughts and ideas. LOL. WTF. So now when you're in a social setting with a person who's being psychologically orientated this way and whose brain architecture is being constructed this way, now when you're in a social setting, it's easy to understand why they can't hold a conversation. They're not being hardwired to be able to hold a conversation or to have that type of social interaction, which fosters critical thinking. So now this is the environment that we're in, right? And here's the thing, with all of the stuff that I'm saying and these big ass $50 words that I be liking to use sometimes. And when I do use them, I do give them context. So I don't just throw them shits out there just to throw them out there. But Me and who I have to figure out the most efficient and effective way to be able to build with these children who are growing up in this world, which is reconstructing their brain architecture and psychologically orientating them in a way where I got to build with them like I'm doing double dutch. If you ever watch people doing double dutch, you can't just run and jump in there. You're going to mess up the flow. You got to sit there and you got to time it and shit. And when you time it and you jump in there, ha, 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 you got it. And then you got to jump out. So the social media apps, the way the technology is going, it's also limited in the attention span of our children and many of us, you know, which also means that we have to be much more patient, to offer much more grace, to be more consistent, because we may not have those same type of opportunities to be able to reach people because of the growth of technology, because of the introduction of social media apps and everything else, which is designed to psychologically orientate us differently, reconstruct our brain architecture, limit our attention span, and bypass our critical thinking skills. These are all of the things that represent the landscape we live in on. And we have to figure out an effective and efficient way to still teach in this environment. And if we don't, we become a relic.